So grid positions decided by a marble draw for race number 1, and Chris Walton, the Australia, drew number 1. He was also fastest in qualifying. Alongside of him, Jeff Kernahan. Grid position 3, Mike Lightfoot. In 4, it's Sam Barry, the newcomer. 5 is Jeff Spencer, and in 6, it is Dirty Dave Kernahan. Grid position 7, it's Brett the Scud Rudd. In 8, it is Glenn Coyote Collinson. In 9, Elton Toon-Goonan, and in 10, Peter Robb. Grid position 11 is Peter Chaos Ward. So we are set to go here at the Highlands Motorsport Park, and Richard Gee, this is a history-making occasion, not only for UDC V8 Utes, but for motorsport in general in New Zealand.
Well, that's right, Phil, and the guys have all been looking forward to getting the Utes going around this circuit. They've all been out practicing and getting used to it, and they all think it's a big challenge, so I think we're in for some great racing.
So first into the bus stop for the first time here in the UDC V8 Utes was the Australian Chris Killer Walton. Been here to New Zealand before, Richard, and was a standout. I think it was at Taupo.
Yeah, first time at that track, and he just dominated. And he would come to this weekend when it's a green track and a new track for all the guys as the favourite, and he's really making his mark on the meeting. And look, everything's going his way. He drew number 1 in the marble draw, as well as dominating the qualifying session. And I mean, he dominated it.
It's one of the Kernahans through in second place, Mike Buzz Lightfoot in third, and then one of the new boys, and one you've got to look out for, and that's Sam Barry. He'll be used to close quarters racing through his work in the Suzuki Swift Sport Cup. Absolutely,
and talking to Sam after the practice session yesterday, he is reveling in the power that the Ute's giving him. You know, 400 odd horsepower, way more than he had in the 4-cylinder Suzuki, and you can see he's driving it with real vigor this weekend.
And look at the multi-spares forward just starting to pull away. You'd expect that, though, from a professional driver. I know we've had his team boss out here racing in the UDC V8 Utes in New Zealand in the form of Rod Dawson, but this guy does this for a living.
He's as good as it gets down this part of the world, I think. It'd be fascinating to see him in some of the top-line machinery in some other categories. He came here and was immediately on the pace, a couple of seconds quicker than the regulars. And let's face it, they all know what they're doing in these Utes, and Chris is still relatively new to the New Zealand setup, but he was straight on the pace at Highlands.
So there is the man we were talking about before. This is Sam Barry, straight out of the Suzuki Swift Sport Cup. Now he's got a whole lot of horsepower under the right foot and a whole lot more weight to deal with too in the Bell Group Ford.
Well, he's certainly fearless going around the track. Looking at the last turn here that they're going through, this is a one where, you know, it pays to be brave, and he was really full on yesterday with it, getting really close to the outside.
Mike Lightfoot just looking for a move up the inside of Kernahan. How close did Walton get to the pit wall that time?
Yeah, they're really hanging it out there, the faster guys, and I would say that they're coming onto the pit straight. They're probably an inch, 2 inches off the wall, so it really favours the brave, that final corner, certainly in the Utes.
There is Peter Ward, finished third in the title chase last year. Just up ahead of him, it's another one of the new boys, that's Glenn Collinson from Hamilton. This is quite a good little scrap developing here. Brett the Scud Rudd, he's gone on in leaps and bounds, hasn't he? His second full season in the UDC V8 Utes, and he finished 4th in the championship last year.
Yeah, he just gets a little bit better every time, every race meeting. There's a little bit more comes from him. And really, it's only a matter of time before he wins one, I think, Phil.
Yeah, exactly right. He came to the UDC V8 Utes with no real formal history in motorsport. Sure, his family involved in Gary Davey and Speedway and New Zealand truck racing. Blair Davey, his engineer, also involved in offshore powerboats and Speedway, all sorts of things. And here's Brett the Scud just gathering it all up. And speaking of gathering it all up, Mike Lightfoot getting a little bit closer to Jeff Riffles Kernahan now. This is a battle for second and third. The Aussie's gone. Oh, Kernahan makes a bit of a mistake. It doesn't take too many chances for Mike Lightfoot to dive down the inside. Taken to the green stuff here at Highlands is Kernahan. So he's going to lose 1 spot. Maybe he's going to lose 2 here.
Yeah, I think that corner's a real challenge for the Utes. It funnels in. Jeff just overcooked it a little bit, and going off wide was the result. Mike didn't need a second opportunity to take that one.
We're on board here with Sam Barry in the Bell Group Ford, a newbie to the UDC V8 Utes, but he's just gained a position after Kernahan went off. Just look at the concentration on the face and the ease and the relaxation behind the wheel. Doing a great job.
He's making a good debut, isn't he, really?
Bit of action further down through the field. Elton Goonan getting close to Peter Chaos Ward.
Yeah, just didn't want to commit to the pass. There may have been a bit of room there, but he backed out of it.
This action further down through the field. Everyone trying to keep the Aussie in sight here at Highlands. This is Elton Goonan. Good to have Elton back in the series in the white bike-sponsored Ford. That's the car. That's the Ute that you drove, Richard.
It is the Ute that I drove, and happy to say that Elton was much faster in it at the circuit than I was when I drove it at Taupo. Yesterday, his transponder wasn't working very well, but we clocked him probably second or third quickest, so he's got pace round here.
This is Dave Kernahan, and just in behind him is SOS, Jeff Spencer, silly old Spence to some. So they've moved through the field here. They've got in front of the Scud, Brett the Scud Rudd. So there's been some changes on this 4.4 kilometre circuit. It's the longest track these guys have ever raced on.
Yeah, the lap is a sort of 150-second, 151-second lap, and that's a lot of corners for these guys to find their way around. But they've done really well. No real incidents in the race or the qualifying to speak of.
We saw earlier, didn't we, that coming up on and over the bridge, there's a bit of a nipping point on the circuit. You mentioned before that it tightens just before the complex of corners before the front straightaway. These things have got enormous brakes, but they're also very heavy. Is that going to be a concern?
I think talking to any of the drivers that have driven on Highlands this weekend, they all say there's no point on the track where they can have a rest. Now, you're not going to feel that any more than in a ute. Very heavy car to drive, fast but a handful, you know, and you've got to be precise with them.
Of course, for those new to the UDC V8 utes, these trucks run on control tyres. They run on Yokohama tyres, so everyone's basically got the same equipment. Of course, it's the Ford-Holden battle that we all love so much, but it is very, very close racing.
It is close racing. It's as close as it gets in production V8 racing in this country. What I like about this particular track is all the guys coming into it level. They're all finding their limits, as you saw Jeff Spencer there just outbrake himself a little bit, and that's brought this group right back up together.
And Peter Chaos Ward just tagging onto the back of the group, and in behind him it is Elton Goon, and so it is the Jackson Enterprises Holden of Jeff Spencer leading the group. Here comes you just got the feeling there that Collinson was getting just a little bit racy. He thinks he saw the opportunity to go down the inside of the Scud, but it didn't work out. Back with the race leader, and you know, he said to these guys, catch me if you can, and clearly they can't.
Yeah, he's making it look a lot easier than it actually is in the cockpit. But he's a class act, Chris Walton, in the multi-spares Ford here. You can see how close he gets to the outside of the barrier there, and he's fully on it, committed every lap.
Good start to the season for Mike Lightfoot, the man they call Buzz, in second place.
And that's Sam Barry giving good hard chase behind him. That's going to turn into an interesting scrap.
So plenty of corners still to come on the last lap for Chris Killer Walton from Australia. He's been an infrequent visitor to the shores of New Zealand for the UDC V8 utes, but every time he's come, he's made it a winning trip, and he's going to do it here. Listen to the howls of protest from the Yokohama tyres from both Lightfoot and also from Sam Barry. Here's the battle for the minors, and Richard, you just get the feeling this one isn't going to be decided until, one, they come out of the forest, or they see the checkered flag.
Well, someone's going to go for it. You saw there Glenn Collinson hanging it out there on the outside. He's going to have a go. I'm sure Brett's not happy to be behind the Kernahan Ford there, so let's see what the last couple of corners bring.
Well, it's a passing opportunity track here at Highlands. As I mentioned before, a history-making occasion. First time the UDC V8 utes has ventured this far south, and who are you going to put your money on here? Diving down the inside goes Collinson. Well, he's no stranger to close quarters racing, but the Scud's got his match and pulls in front again.
Well, they're in the last third of the lap now, Phil, and it's really getting tasty out there, and I wonder if the battle behind Jeff's just going to help him.
There is the 17, the better Autos Ford of Glenn Collinson. Remember, out in the front, it's the Australian. He's a clear winner, but this is where all the action is. And you just know when you see Peter Chaos Ward lurking in the background there in that Ward demolition truck, something's about to happen.
Well, you can always expect action there.
So this is the man that's going to claim the victory here in race number 1 of 3 for the UDC V8 utes at the Highlands Motorsport Park just outside of Cromwell. The Australian, too good for the Kiwis here in race number 1. So it was a marble draw to find the grid positions. That means that the man that's going to win race number 1 will start at the very back in race number 2. He's not thinking about that now. He's got victory on his mind, and Chris Killer Walton claims first blood here at Highlands. Second place, it will be Mike Buzz Lightfoot, and in third place on debut, you can't say better than that, and that is Sam Barry. Battle for the minors comes across the line. Jeff Spencer is there, the other Kernahan, Brett the Scud Rudd, and another newbie in the form of Glenn Collinson. But this man has done it all. Walton gets the win in race number 1. In second place, it is Buzz Lightfoot, and in third place, Sam Barry, the debutant. Fourth goes to one of the veterans, Jeff Spencer, and in fifth, it's Jeff Kernahan. Sixth, to Brett the Scud Rudd. In seventh, it's the Coyote, Glenn Collinson, and in eighth, it's Chaos, Peter Ward.